Well, I think for me, as I said, I had belonged to a couple of networks when I was in Melbourne, the one out of Glenroy, and then I was teaching in Sydenham. So we had a network there. But it was very, so then when I moved to Ballarat, I had a period where I wasn't in career development, I was in the classroom. Um, but then whoever was doing in had the role of career development at the school, one of the schools I was at. I don't know. He got another position within the school, so I stepped into his role because I'd already had some experience in the Melbourne schools, and the strength of the Ballarat Career Education Network, I think, was second to none. I mean, Leela's mentioned somebody like Jenny Quick, but unbelievably collegial, supportive. I think a bigger thing to say about the CEAV compared with other with subject associations was the emphasis too on professional learning. So it wasn't just about information giving, support, but you had a very strong sense that this was an area where you did need expertise, even if the school itself just felt that, 2 periods a week or 4 might suffice. That's certainly my experience, was that the emphasis on professional learning in the field, the provision of opportunity to do that, I just thought was wonderful. And within the Ballarat network, there must have been at least somebody who'd gone and done the grad dip at RMIT. So I thought, oh, well, I need to do that. I mean, even so it was commuting. So I had young children, but I'd come down, I think it was one night a week at RMIT. So I think the network, the strength of the network in terms of supporting each other. And, I was saying earlier on, if I was teaching economics and history, which I did have some peers in the school. I was in a department, but as soon as you get into career development, my experience was there was no one else in the school, and no one within administration really took much notice. So you might, for example, have made arrangements to go and visit a student on work experience, and you'd have told who was the daily organiser, and you'd get in and you'd get, oh, well, somebody hasn't come to work, sick, so you'll need to take their class. No understanding of the impact of that but hang on, I've made specific arrangements to meet with the supervisor of the student, whatever. So in many respects, it was a very lonely position within a school, I felt, whereas knowing that you could pick up the phone to somebody at the school, a few blocks away, or Leela mentioned Jeff Tallifson, he was up from the Mallee somewhere. But I remember having conversations with careers teachers practitioners in Horsham, for example, that I'd probably met at a conference. And so you didn't think, oh, well, that person's at Horsham Secondary, and what connection do I have with Horsham Secondary? You just thought, oh, I remember that person talking about such and such. And so you just call them up. And so I love the networks, the regional networks, I've got to say. And then it was always exciting if a conference was in your, for example, Ballarat, but we didn't have the responsibility for the catering. So no, they were, and I would imagine that, and of course getting the journal, you'd hang out for getting the CEAV journal because it would have extracts from research, and again, I think it's an area where you're always looking outward. You are always looking outward, as opposed to not necessarily with your teaching subject areas. I mean, I'm not saying you don't continue learning, but there's something about career development that you're just forced to be looking out into the world and internationally. And that was another thing about the CEAV. I'm getting off the point of the networks, but to have somebody have done that work, such as Leela, to, oh, Tony Watts. Oh, well, I'll find out a bit more about him. Oh my gosh, I've read some of his work and I can actually hear him speak. Again, in your subject areas, you didn't really have the opportunity for that experience. You couldn't hear international speakers. You couldn't necessarily even hear from well-known Australian historians because there just wasn't the forum the same way.
And look, I agree with everything Carmel has said. I think subjects as regional groups are critical organisations, bringing together careers practitioners at the local level. It gives them a forum to sort of share their good practice, but also share some of the angst.
Yes.
A problem solved is a problem hard, that sort of stuff. And just talking to your colleagues, sometimes in those sort of meetings, you get really good ideas about how to deal with certain issues that have come up, or say you've got a number of work experience placements all lined up, not enough students, you can share that with other people. So I think regional careers networks are just absolutely critical. And when I was working in the department, we also understood how important they are. And we know that not all careers practitioners have access to some of these networks, but where possible, they're really great to sort of, we try and connect them as much as possible. No, I think and they do a great job. Most of this is done in their own time. They meet after work, all the minute taking, all the professional development they organise. So I think people forget the amount of time careers practitioners actually spend doing things outside their school hours. I was asked to go and bank this money. I said, really? You're going to go and bank this money? I know nothing about money except how to spend it, as Jeff Telephone always said to me, right? Because I just always organise like, oh, we can get a speaker and let's go. And good food, always organise good food. He said, Leela, this costs money. He said, oh, you will make money. You've got to spend money to make money was my motto, still is, right? And so we had to, he said to me, like, we need to go and bank this money. Can you go and do that? And I said, so as I was walking to the bank, everyone else is running out of it, right? I'm thinking, what's going on here, right? So then I finally bring Jeff, said, Jeff, do you know what's happened? I banked it. He said, tell me you didn't bank it. You told me to bank the money. I banked the money. But we got it out.
It was about 1987, I think.
Like that.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it. So I'm walking in, everyone's walking in. Why is everyone running out?
That's what's called a run on a bank.